Did you ever see Attack the Block, where an unlikely group of teens rise up to protect their neighborhood from danger? Get Duked is a new Amazon original that shares some of the same feels. But is that enough to make it watchable? Three juvenile delinquents and one homeschool kid with no friends are taken out into the Scottish Highlands to take part in the Duke of Edinburgh wilderness trek. While there, they encounter and then have to survive a mysterious huntsman. Right off the bat, this is not going to be for everybody. If you're not into hip-hop, then this might be an immediate turnoff for you. This is a dark comedy, and a lot of the humor is subtle, and it's also comprised of sight gags. So if you're not watching closely and you're not paying attention, then you'll definitely miss it. The boys that go on the trek are very grating, and they're supposed to be, because we want to have people at the beginning who we can't root for so that we can see character growth within them so that they become redeemable characters that we do want to root for. They're crass, and there is a ton of male bravado and machismo that just seeps from them. I mean, they're trying to put on this front, and most of it is to impress the other guys within that group. But what it also does is really points to their inner fears, their inner weaknesses, and just all of the things that they don't want everybody else to know about. And I do like that those inner doubts and fears, the film attempts to tackle, at least in small ways. Now, there is a foreboding and ominous tone to the movie, but for the first half, we don't really understand why it's there or what it's about. We can guess at where the story is taking us, but the motivations for the antagonist aren't clear. This has a mindless humor to it that's actually quite clever. I mean, the characters are able to elicit a lot of laughs from us because they come across as simpletons, who are just victims of their circumstances, which they help to create. But what I love is that they're not as dumb as they come across, which is why we don't judge books by their covers. And I really like the friendship aspect of this story. As I said, I wanted to see growth from the characters. And what we get is transformations, but also through vulnerability, we get to see these characters really grow. And I found myself just being drawn to each of them, when at the beginning I was rolling my eyes and like, oh gosh, you guys are stupid and I don't know how much of you I can take. In addition to the bumbling kids, we also get some clueless cops who add to the fun. Their assumptions add ridiculousness to the overall fun of the movie. I particularly love their highest priority case in which they're trying to solve. I mean, it made me yearn for very small town life. The setting of the Highlands is beautiful, but it's also desolate and isolating and lonely. Now, some of this had a little bit of an Edgar Wright feel to it. Now, I'm not talking about the soundtrack or the editing style, because he has a very unique editing style to his films. It felt at times like some of his early work unspaced. Offbeat laughs are created from some tiny bits of randomness, from some really odd characters who grow on us. There's some surprising violence in this film too. I mean, most of the horrifying stuff is shown from far away, but it's still shocking. One made me put my hand to my mouth because it caught me so off guard, and the other made me laugh out loud because, again, I didn't see it coming and it was so abrupt. These are the types of things that make the movie fun. There's a decent underlying story, but when you combine it with some character development and growth and transformation that really is good, and some humor and a little bit of mystery or intrigue within it, it transforms it from something that could be mediocre to something that's pretty good. I mean, I was surprised at how much I ended up liking this. I mentioned Attack the Block at the very beginning, and that is a sci-fi movie. So if you haven't seen it, where you're kind of like, well, that reference doesn't even mean anything to you. But if you did see that and you're wondering how it ties into this film, it's not about the sci-fi aspect. It's just truly about the group of people, the teens, who are the unlikely ones that you would expect to rise up from their situation and despite their situation to become heroes. And that's kind of what we have in this. Just that character growth that we get to see, the unifying spirit, and the amount of fun and crazy chaos that comes from their interactions. This is ridiculous fun, and at only 87 minutes, it really is a quick watch. I suggest giving this a go, especially if you are a fan of British humor. There's no sex or nudity, a ton of profanity, and some brutal violence. I give Get Duked 4 out of 5 couches. What's a movie that you thought was going to be bad, but ended up being pretty good? Let me know in the comments below. I'm going to be doing an Ask Me Anything type video in a couple of weeks, and I would love to get your questions. I've posted a link in the description below that goes to a Google Forms so that you can ask your questions there. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.